Hello, welcome to the course SJPHY3BO3 Electrodynamics 1. The contents of this course is taken from Introduction to Electrodynamics by David J. Griffiths. We will continue to discuss topic from Chapter 5, Magnetostatics. So, having familiarized with the basic principles of electrostatics and magnetostatics, we are now in a position to have a head-on comparison between these two. So, whatever electromagnetism we have learned so far can be summarized into these four equations. Divergence of E equal to rho by epsilon naught, this is the Gauss law, and curl of E equal to 0. Similarly, divergence of B equal to 0 and curl of B equal to mu naught J. This is the Ampere's law. So if you look at the electric and magnetic field lines, you can notice that electric field lines spread out from the source, whereas magnetic field lines curl around the source. That's why you have a non-zero divergence for electric field and non-zero curl for the magnetic field. And by convention, the source of electric field is taken to be a unit positive charge. So electric field lines always start from the positive charge and end on the negative charge. So if you calculate the divergence here, since the field lines are spreading in all directions, you get a non-zero divergence. On the other hand, the magnetic field lines, they always form closed loops. Now the speciality of a closed loop is that you cannot pinpoint which is the starting point or the ending point. So if you take a magnet, it has two poles, the north pole and south pole, and the closed magnetic loops always connect these two poles. You can never have a magnet with only north pole or only south pole. So if you imagine that you have a hypothetic magnet which has only north pole, and then if you look at the field lines, either the field lines will be entering into the north pole or they will be coming out of the north pole. In either case, if you calculate the divergence of magnetic field, it will be non-zero. Similarly, if you have a magnet with only south pole, in the same manner you will have a non-zero divergence there. But the very fact that the divergence of magnetostatic field is always zero means that you can never have a magnet with only north pole or only south pole. In other words, magnetic monopoles do not exist. Probably this is the most important fundamental difference between an electrostatic field and a magnetostatic field. In electrostatic field, you can have a monopole which exists completely independent of others. On the other hand, in the case of magnetostatic field, you cannot have a magnetic monopole existing independent of others. Now, if you look at the magnetostatic force F equal to Q into E plus V cross B, so as we know, a magnetic field is produced by a moving electric charge, and you require another moving electric charge with velocity v to experience this magnetic field. And if you compare the strength of the electrostatic force and magnetostatic force, you will notice that the electrostatic force is much more dominant or stronger compared to the magnetostatic force. And this you can easily make out from the very expression. And the expression for electrostatic field, you have 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught term. The value of epsilon naught is the order of 10 to the power minus 12. Epsilon naught is in the denominator, so you have a 10 to the power 12 factor there. Whereas in the case of a magnetostatic field, you have a factor of mu naught by 4 pi. The magnitude of mu naught is 10 to the power minus 7. So you are comparing 10 to the power 12 versus 10 to the power minus 7. So you can make out that the electrostatic field is much more stronger compared to the magnetostatic field. So always the force related to electrostatic field is going to be dominant compared to the magnetostatic force, but only in one condition these two forces become comparable. That is when the charges start to move with the speed of light. So this is the realm of relativity, and this the electromagnetism in this realm is known as relativistic electrodynamics. Now, in the case of electrostatics, the fact that curl of E equal to 0 allowed us to introduce the concept of electrostatic potential. Because from vector analysis, we know that curl of gradient is always 0. So this enabled us to write the electric field in terms of a gradient of a scalar function. That is how we wrote E equal to minus grad V, where V is known as the electric scalar potential. Now there is some advantage in using an electric potential instead of an electric field, because you know that by default electric field is a vector quantity, so it has three components. So whenever you make a calculation of electric field, you have to make three calculations, one in the x direction, one in the y direction, and one in the z direction. On the other hand, if you are using electric potential, this is a scalar quantity, so you have to make only one computation. So you can calculate electric potential first, then using this relation you can back calculate the electrostatic field. So there is a definite advantage in using a scalar potential over a vector field. In the same manner, if you look into magnetostatics, divergence of B equal to 0. Once again, from vector analysis, you know that divergence of curl is always 0, which means you can represent the magnetic field in terms of curl of a function. So you can write B equal to curl of A, and as you know, curl is always associated with a vector function, so I call the vector function A as magnetic vector potential. So once I represent the magnetic field in terms of the magnetic potential, I can rewrite Ampere's law in terms of the vector potential. I know that curl of B equal to mu naught J. Now instead of B, I can write curl of A. So this is curl of A, which is del into del dot A minus del square A, which is equal to mu naught J. Now in the case of electric potential V, I can always add another scalar function B prime without altering the value of the electric field, provided the gradient of V prime equal to 0. Let's check out how does this happen. So I know that E equal to minus grad V. I am going to add a V prime to V such that gradient of V prime equal to 0. Now expand this, E equal to minus grad V minus grad V prime, but grad V prime equal to 0. So this is minus grad V minus 0, which is minus grad V. So addition of V prime doesn't change the characteristics of the electric field. Now example for such a V prime could be any constant, because you know that in the case of any constant, the gradient is always 0. Similarly, for the magnetic potential A, I can always find an A prime. An addition of A prime doesn't change the value of the magnetic field, provided curl of A prime equal to 0. So B is equal to curl of A. I am going to add an A prime to it such that curl of A prime equal to 0. So B equal to curl of A plus curl of A prime. Curl of A prime equal to 0. So this is curl of A plus 0, which is curl of A. So addition of A prime doesn't change the characteristics of the magnetic field. Now what is the example of such an A prime function? Curl of A prime equal to 0. I know that from vector analysis, curl of gradient is always 0. So any gradient function could be an example for A prime. So I can write A prime equal to grad psi, where psi is any scalar function. So addition of a constant function to electric potential doesn't change the characteristic of the electrostatic field. Similarly, addition of a gradient function to the magnetic potential doesn't change the characteristics of the magnetostatic field. So this is known as gauge transformation. So this is very similar to the Galilean transformation you learn in classical mechanics. So you know that a Galilean transformation allows you to switch from one inertial frame to another inertial frame without changing the equation of motion. In the same manner, gauge transformation allows you to switch from one potential system to another potential system without changing the characteristics of the fields involved. Now, having defined A prime, now I can write a divergence of A plus A prime as a divergence of A plus grad psi, which is divergence of A plus del square psi. Now this term divergence of A has no physical significance and we are free to choose any value for it. So when you have a blind choice like this, the most sensible option is to choose a value which makes the equation as simple as possible. So let's keep the value of divergence of A as 0 because you can always find a suitable psi which makes this equation valid. So in summary, divergence of A equal to 0, this is known as Coulomb gauge. And if you look at the Ampere's law once again, so I have a divergence of A term here. This is equated to 0. So which means the Ampere's law gets reduced as del square A equal to minus mu naught J. This is very similar to the Poisson's equation you had derived in the case of electrostatics where del square V equal to minus rho by epsilon naught. So the electrostatic potential and the magnetostatic potential, they behave almost similarly. Now from the Biot-Savart law, we know that in the case of line current, magnetic field B equal to mu naught by 4 pi integral I cross r cap by r square dl prime. Since B equal to curl of A, I can write A equal to mu naught by 4 pi line integral I by r dl prime. I am not going into the details of the derivation, just I want to emphasize the form of this equation. Now if you compare this with the one-dimensional electrostatic potential, you can see that the form of the equation is almost similar. Both the potential have a 1 by r dependence, which means as you move away from the source, the strength of the potential is going to decrease, just like the field. Now having defined the one-dimensional case, you can quickly extrapolate it to the 2D and 3D case. So in the case of 2D, the magnetic vector potential is mu naught by 4 pi integral k over r into dA prime. And in the case of 3D, the magnetic vector potential is mu naught by 4 pi integral j by r into d tau prime, where k is the surface current density and j is the volume current density. I'm sorry, these two equations are swapped. This should have been here and this equation should have been here. Okay. Now, if you compare the utility of the magnetic potential and electric potential, you can notice that the electric potential is much more useful because it is a scalar function. On the other hand, the magnetic potential is a vector potential. So here also you will have to make a calculation in all the 3 dimensions. So compared to the magnetic field, mathematically you do not have an advantage in using the magnetic potential. But there is some physical significance associated with magnetic vector potential, that is in the calculation of magnetic flux through a surface bounded by a closed path. So suppose you have a closed surface here and these are the magnetic field lines, and the sum total of all these field lines, this is nothing but the flux through the surface. which is defined as phi equal to integral B dot dA. Now instead of B, I can write curl of A dot dA, and this surface integral I can convert into a line integral using the Stokes theorem. So the magnetic flux through this closed surface equal to closed integral A dot d. So integral of the vector potential over a closed path is equal to the magnetic flux through the surface bounded by the path. So the magnetic vector potential is related to a physically measurable parameter, which is the magnetic flux. Now the magnetostatics we have learned so far, we can summarize into a magnetostatic triangle. You have three important parameters. One is the magnetic field, then the magnetic potential, and third is the source, which is the current density. And you have two equations connecting any of these two parameters. One is an integral equation and another is a differential equation. So between B and J, you have the Biot-Savart law, which is B equal to mu naught over 4 pi integral J cross R cap by R square d tau prime. Also, you have a differential equation, curl of B equal to mu naught J. Similarly, you have an integral equation connecting A and J, A equal to mu naught over 4 pi integral J over R d tau prime. Similarly, a differential equation which is del square A equal to mu naught J. Similarly, you have the relation between magnetic field B and magnetic potential A, which is B equal to curl of A. So this is the kind of summary of the magnetostatics we have learned so far. So that's for today. In tomorrow's class, we will discuss about magnetostatic boundary conditions.